Hello and welcome to this solo episode of the Live Shit Get Banged podcast. You are joined today by Coach Sophia, and we are going to do a slightly different topic to what I originally planned today. And I won't lie, guys, it is because I'm going to make this episode as short and sweet as possible because I'm ill. I sound like a bloke, my voice is husky, and I'm pissed off because I was meant to be going out tonight. Well, I am still going to go out tonight. It is my first official rave debut of the year, and I'm meeting up with my best friend. We're going to go to Fabric, we're going to have a boogie, and just the classic luck. I woke up today and my throat was killing me, and I was like, no, not today. So, all I've been doing today is working from home, trying to stay cozy, trying to sleep. I haven't trained. And I thought, what a great opportunity today to talk about navigating being ill and how to not feel guilty for taking rest when you are poorly, especially when we are thinking about your long-term goals, if you're working towards fat loss, if you're working towards building muscle, and how this actually impacts your progress. And I want to start by sprinkling in a little bit of science because there are multiple studies that have been done on this topic, and it can really help to rationalize why it is important for us to rest when we are ill, as opposed to trying to push through and put our bodies through absolute hell for the sake of ticking off a workout and for the sake of consistency. So, in a study done in 2011, there were participants. So, this was actually what we call a position statement study, which actually summarizes and interprets already existing research. So, this is based off of multiple studies. And one of them was when participants performed a bout of exercise. So, the exercise was an endurance run or a high intensity interval session. And researchers then measured their immune markers before and after the workout. And these markers included white blood cell counts, cell activity, and antibodies found in your saliva that actually protect you from getting sick. And then they tracked those changes through hours and days after the exercise to see immune change and the way that the exercise impacted those antibodies and cell activity. And what the study showed and what this analysis showed is that intense or prolonged exercise actually temporarily suppresses immune function. So it means that training is a temporary stress on your body, and that can increase vulnerability to infections and actually slower recovery. And why this matters when you are poorly is because if you're already fighting an infection, adding training on top of this just adds to the stress as opposed to helping support our recovery and adaptation. And training whilst being sick can actually prolong your recovery. It can make symptoms worse. And it's important to note that this doesn't mean that training is bad. We want to avoid chronic stress, but training and recovery, so short temporary bursts of stress, are a good thing. And this means that we can adapt and we build resilience, but it is prolonged stress that actually is the culprit to feeling worse. And if your body isn't recovering, it doesn't have the capacity to recover, just adding stress is only going to make us feel even more like a sack of shit. So that is the science behind it. And I think if you're in doubt, if you are poorly enough to take a rest day or not, a really good question to ask yourself is this going to make my body feel better or not? It's such a simple question, but is going into the gym going to make me feel better, or will I feel better for having a nap and chilling the fuck out for the next few hours? And if you're still not sure, if it is something like a minor sniffle or a head cold, or you're just a bit tired, we don't want to use that as an excuse to not go in and train. But if it is, you've got a super sore throat, you clearly have an infection, it is anything chin downwards. So you have a chest infection, you've got norovirus and you're shitting your pants. I can guarantee you that you will benefit more from skipping your workout and taking rest. Something that I've seen over the years with online clients, it is they hearing your feedback from the week and in our group coaching, especially. So we do a 1-step checkpoint each week. I will hear a client say, I've been really ill this week, but I've pushed through because I didn't want to give up and I still feel really bad. And actually, I've burnt out and now I feel even worse. That's something that we hear all the time. And when I was doing in person training sessions in the gym with one to one clients, I would frequently see clients rock up to their sessions and they would say to me in the first 5 minutes, I felt really ill, but I didn't want to cancel. So let's just give it a go anyway. And guarantee 15 minutes in, I'm sending them home because they're really struggling. We're wheezing, snotting everywhere. Everything is feeling ridiculously hard, and actually, training just wasn't feasible. And they ended up going home anyway. And it was after that I very quickly realized, actually, when I first started doing PT work, I put a little disclaimer when clients started with me. And it was one of the first things that I said was, if you're ill, let me know the evening before. I would prefer you to cancel rather than show up to your session, us training on top of you feeling like a sack of shit, and then you leaving feeling worse, or us having to send you home halfway through the session. It is only going to be a waste of your time. And I would rather you go home, rest, feel better, and then show up. We can rebook in the session and get in a really great session when you are back on your feet. And also, just to throw it out there is nothing worse than being in the gym and there is somebody snotty next to you, breathing and coughing and spluttering over everyone and making everybody else poorly. So, all in all, you resting is going to mean that you can bounce back quicker and you can get back onto your feet quicker, as opposed to pushing through and just prolonging that illness. So, taking the rest day, as many rest days as you need. So, even if you're skipping 2, 3 sessions, wait until you are feeling 95% better, until you are going back into high intensity training. And you might be thinking, but Soph, like that's very well said and done, but maybe I've already missed a few training sessions. And okay, what can I focus on instead? And I think being poorly, often we can reflect back and go, I wish I actually made the most of the opportunity I did have earlier on during the week, or that quick 30 minutes when I could have got a training session in and I turned it down because it wasn't perfect. And we can often look back at that with a bit of regret. So I would say it can highlight actually just really making the most of the opportunities that we do have to train. And I can't emphasize enough how making the most of imperfect action and just getting some form of training in, even if it isn't perfect. So I've done this a couple of times myself this week. I really don't like training in the evenings because the gym tends to be really busy. It's full of like school kids or college kids and stinky guys. Like, it's just not a vibe. We all know that training earlier on in the day is better, it's quieter, it's more chill. Because of the way that my work has been structured this week and just commitments that I've had on, my training sessions have needed to be in the evening. Now, that could have very much been an opportunity for me to go, you know what, I'm going to wait until the weekend, until I have a clear window to train, and I will exercise then. But thank God that I didn't, because now that I'm ill and I actually need to take a rest day, I can look back at my week and go, you know what, I'm really pleased that I got those 2 imperfect sessions done, even though they were a bit quicker than usual, even though my energy levels probably were suboptimal because I trained after a long work day and I probably didn't perform as well as I may have done in the morning, but we got moving and I got those sessions done. So making the most of the opportunities that you do have and embracing imperfection. And it means that when we are ill and we do need to take rest, we can. I want you to also consider that just because you can't get into the gym, it doesn't mean that we don't still have so many other things that you can work towards. I encourage you to consider your overall health and fitness in separate categories or separate pillars. So we've got your training in the gym, we've got your exercise outside of the gym. So this is predominantly your steps, or it could be cardio sessions that you're doing, low intensity, steady state movement. It is also your recovery, so your sleep being a big part of that. And we can also look under that bracket your hydration and your nutrition. And we can think about these separate categories. And when we can't do one of those things, for example, we can't go into the gym because we feel like a sack of shit and we're ill, it doesn't mean that the other pillars need to go out of the window. It doesn't mean that everything all of a sudden is ruined. We can still focus on sleep. We can still focus on nutrition. We can still focus on gentle movement. And actually, by focusing on these things, that is only going to support you and your recovery as well. So I always encourage to focus on the things that are going to help to recharge you first. And that is going to be Can we get as much sleep as possible? Your sleep is so vital for your recovery. Your body does the majority of its recovery work when you are sleeping. So prioritize getting in a few more hours sleep over pushing yourself to the gym when you're already feeling run down. Hydration, obviously, that is pretty self explanatory. Nutrition, can we get in as many plants for vitamins and minerals and protein so that we can support your body to recover? This is a vital one. And just because you are feeling ill, it doesn't mean that we have to all of a sudden sack off your nutrition goals and we're eating ice cream from the tub and Haribo's by the ton. I do understand that when you're poorly, you're going to want probably more comforting food and maybe energy levels are going to be really low, so you can't cook. Or perhaps your appetite is low because you've got a stomach bug or you're just not in a great place to eat large meals. So things that you can do is opt for more comforting foods like soups or yogurts with added fruit or even simple prepped meals. So one of my comfort meals I always go for is a ramen because it's full of spice and I can put big lots of protein in there, loads of veg, and it takes a mere few minutes to prep, especially if you're using eggs as your protein source. So it's a quick one that I can literally roll out of bed. I can make a really warm, comforting ramen packed full of nutrients that requires little to no effort. And if you are in a calorie deficit, this might be a window where you want to take your calories up to maintenance just for a few days whilst you are recovering so that you can prioritize getting in as many nutrients as possible so that we can get you back on your feet. So, in hindsight, I hope that this has given you the evidence. We're throwing facts out there, guys, as to why it is not going to benefit you for pushing through. And that there is no reason for you to feel guilt or shame around taking rest days in order for you to get back on your feet. And when we zoom out and we look at the bigger picture, what is going to be more important, focusing on recovery so that we can get you back on your feet rather than trying to push through and making it worse. I've seen this time and time again. And in worst cases, I have seen clients not taking on board the advice that we've given them and ending up with really bad chest infections or pneumonia, or if they've had an injury, making that injury worse. And it is one of those moments of sometimes you have to go through it to learn from that experience. But hopefully by listening to today's podcast episode, you don't need to. So to anybody who is also a snot rocket like me, I hope that you are feeling better soon. Sending lots of get well wishes your way. And hopefully I will sound less like a run over frog by next week's episode. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you for the next episode of the Lift Shit Get Banged podcast. Ciao.